Hello, everybody. Hello. Welcome to another episode of Speak English Like a Leader. I hope you're doing well. I don't know where you are, whether you're on holidays or you're working. Well, if you're watching this live or whether the replay, well, welcome. Welcome to this new episode. This episode is going to be mostly in English and a bit of French at the beginning and the end. And today we are going to talk about something extremely interesting because it applies to many. Perhaps as one of my clients, it even applies to you. You deal with comparing yourself to someone who speaks better English and makes you uncomfortable. Maybe this person is younger than you, less experienced, or at the same stage as you, but in English, they just look and sound better than you. At least that's what you think. And it creates that little feeling of unease. You compare yourself and it impacts your confidence when you speak. If this is the case, let me tell you something. It's normal. Yeah, to be honest, you can't really help comparing yourself to others. People do that all the time. It's part of the way our brain functions. That's how we work. And but today we're going to see what you can do about it, how you can empower yourself instead of preventing, how comparison sometimes can prevent you from speaking English with confidence. We're going to look at what you can control. But before that, let me introduce myself to you if you don't know me. My name is Aurélie, aka Aurélie, et voici le moment où je m'introduis en français. Euh, Bienvenue dans ce live Speak English Like a Leader ou bienvenue dans ce replay, parce que je sais que la plupart regardent plutôt le replay. Et pour ceux qui ne me connaissent pas, moi c'est Aurélie aka Aurélie et j'ai évolué dans un univers professionnel, international, multiculturel, avec une carrière en droit international. Et en parallèle, je donnais déjà des cours de langue. Et il y a presque 7 ans, j'ai décidé d'en faire mon métier à plein temps. Et depuis, j'ai pu accompagner plusieurs profils et aussi me former en cours de route. Et aujourd'hui, j'accompagne principalement les dirigeants à déverrouiller ou dérouiller leur anglais oral pour gagner en impact, crédibilité, opportunité à l'international et vraiment réussir à penser, parler, performer en anglais pour qu'ils puissent aussi pouvoir incarner pleinement leur leadership en anglais, diriger en anglais et que leur communication en anglais reflète leur expertise et leur expérience. So, now that you know a bit more about me, je reviens en français 30 secondes. À la fin, je vais un petit peu récapituler ce que j'ai dit en anglais, mais le reste va être en anglais. Comme ça, on pratique ensemble. Et si vous avez des questions, n'hésitez pas à me contacter, que ce soit en privé, en message, ici, du live. So, going back to our topic, why we compare ourselves, why it happens, and why sometimes it can feel intense. So, according to Leon Festinger, he's a psychologist, humans can't define themselves independently. So, what does it mean? When you see someone who is similar to you or in a similar context or situation, but you find some similarities, similar to you but different, and that you notice the difference, then you also notice a gap between that person and you. And what is interesting and crazy, I believe, is your brain can treat that gap, that difference between you and the other person as a physical threat. Yeah, did you hear what I said? Like you're in danger physically. And that's why you can literally feel unease or discomfort when you hear someone speaking better English than you, according to your opinion. Well, your brain sees it as a difference, a gap, and it feels like it's a threat, physical threat, or it can happen in any context, like when someone else gets a promotion, or someone buys a new house when you're still renting. And if you have that feeling, as I was saying at the beginning, it's normal. It's a social comparison mechanism that activates in the background. And basically, what your brain is doing, it's asking itself, am I safe? Am I okay? Because there's this gap between this person and me, this difference. What does it mean? Are we good? So there's a threat, like, ooh, a bit of a danger coming. So what can you do? See, it's a mechanism that happens. We can't really help ourselves from doing it. How to make comparison work for you instead of against you, so you can still be able to speak English confidently. Comparison, because it can become an obstacle to your well-being. It can become an obstacle to your ability to speak, think, and perform in English like a leader. As I say all the time, sometimes we don't need necessarily more words, more learning. Sometimes less is more. And one way of applying this principle is also identifying actually what is preventing you from speaking English fluently. And one of the obstacles that you may be facing is comparison. If you deal with that, you can have a shift and build your confidence, and that will impact your fluency for real. Um, so, talking about the obstacle, when it comes to comparison, the biggest obstacle is actually yourself, it's your inner voice, to be more precise. It's what your mind does with the comparison. So, here are three ways that I'm going to share right now to shift your response when you are in those situations or in general. So, number one, how can you shift and use comparison to build yourself up and to be a more confident speaker in English? One, treat comparison as information, as simple as that. When you are triggered, when you notice you are comparing yourself to another person, when you hear that person speaking English and you're like, oh, gosh, I wish I could speak like that, or I'm feeling uncomfortable, and you are like feeling just uncomfortable hearing the person, pause for a moment and ask, what is it indicating? What is it saying? Why am I feeling this way exactly? What can I do about it? And do that not to judge yourself, just to extract information about why it's happening. Take the time. Sorry about that. I don't know where you are, but I'm currently in Spain and it's hot. Between the air conditioning, the ventilator, the hot degrees, like my throat is a bit irritated. All this to say that I allow myself to drink water. So, so we just looked at number one, treat comparison as information. Don't judge yourself. Don't feel bad about it. Don't condemn yourself for that. Then number two, turn it into inspiration, even when it doesn't happen naturally. Sometimes comparison is actually positive. That's why I believe we often call inspiration. It's when your brain reads the situation as, if they can do it, then I can do it. You know, I see a gap, there's a difference between this person and me, but I guess, but at least this person showed that there's a way to do it, that there's a possibility. But if it's not what happens naturally, if you feel miserable after comparing yourself, then be intentional. Go back to number one. Remember, number one, treat as comparison as information. Ask yourself, what is it indicating, and ask how can I transform this into motivation. So if you're feeling unease, like uncomfortable when you hear someone speaking English better than you, maybe it's pointing at something you deeply want, but you're not working on yet. Maybe it shows that it's something that matters to you. Some people don't care if they don't speak really well English, they're making mistakes, or they can't express themselves properly. We don't all have the same desires, expectations, goals, targets of excellency as well. You know, for example, for me, I speak different languages. I speak, for example, Spanish, and my level could be much better. Like I could be speaking better Spanish, but for the moment, I'm good where I'm at. Like I don't really mind having like some mistakes every now and then. Like I'm okay. Like I still don't master the subjunctive in Spanish. I'm all right. But for some other people, like they need to go to the next level. That's what I had with English. Like I did care. Like I wanted to master that language. I love the English language. I still like to learn every day. So maybe it doesn't happen to me. Actually, I don't feel uncomfortable with someone else English. But if you do, it probably shows that you matter, that it matters to you, the way you sound in English, the way you speak English. Maybe, perhaps, so take the time to think about it. Maybe um, it's telling you it's time to move and find solutions and do something about it. So think about that. So, number three, after you've practiced to turn it into inspiration, there's also an important element: build internal security, reassure your brain. So remember, I said that when you compare yourself, you enter your brain enters in threat mode. Like your brain is asking, "Am I safe? Am I okay? Am I below? Am I going to survive because I don't have the skills that I see in that other person?" So, in order to build your confidence, as confidence is important, it impacts your ability to speak. Be intentional about reassuring your brain. And how can you do that? Notice and acknowledge your competence. Ask yourself, what am I doing well already when it comes to speaking English? What have I achieved? Okay, if you're listening to me, you are achieving something great. You're understanding me, you're following me, you're practicing. That's good. And notice it, acknowledge it, because our brain, it has this tendency to look at the gap, to look at what is missing, like in survival mode, right? Like, oh my goodness, this is missing. We have this natural tendency to see what we are lacking, what we don't have. And we don't take enough time to look at what we have already, what we have achieved, to look at our wins. And you have wins, you have many wins, and you probably neglect them. I like what Shade Meng Tan, author of Joy on Demand, says. She gives an idea that I love. She said, build the habit of moving what is in your neutral column into your win column. So there are many things that we think, oh, meh, meh, it's not a big deal, but treat it as a win, especially concerning your English. Treat it as a win that you can understand some of it. Treat it as a win that you can make yourself understood, that you can have a conversation, that you improved, that you're better than a year ago. Treat it as a win and reassure your brain to build confidence and to help you treat comparison in a way that empowers you and not in a way that harms you. And what is amazing is that when you feel more confident, consequences are immediate. You're calmer, so you can think better, you speak with more fluency, you look more credible, you generate more trust. You're more capable of leading and listening, and you start speaking English like a leader. So put that into practice, and you will see a change in your attitude and your actions. And this is the formula to speak English like a leader despite comparison, which, as we saw, to wrap up, that it can empower you if you gather that as data to see what's the next step, what's the solution. And thank you for listening until now. Now I'm going to wrap up in French. Je vais continuer en français, résumer un petit peu ce que j'ai partagé. Merci m'avoir écouté jusqu'ici. Si vous avez des questions, n'hésitez surtout pas. Et si vous sentez que vous avez besoin d'aide et que votre anglais ne reflète pas votre expertise, votre expérience, et que vous voulez savoir où est-ce que vous en trouvez, vous voulez avoir un diagnostic, un retour un petit peu, mais contactez-moi. Je vais mettre mon lien de contact en commentaire et je serai ravie d'échanger avec vous. Et donc, comme j'ai promis, comme maintenant je fais full in English, mais j'ai parlé de la comparaison et que c'est normal finalement de se comparer, c'est un mécanisme normal et naturel. Notre cerveau, en fait, les hommes, on se définit pas de manière indépendante, mais par rapport aux autres. Et quand on voit qu'il y a une différence entre nous et l'autre, surtout quelqu'un qui nous ressemble, qui est dans un contexte similaire à notre contexte, notre cerveau va interpréter cette différence, ce gap, cet écart, comme un danger. C'est fou. Comme une menace physique. Et il va se dire, est-ce que je suis OK? Est-ce que ça va? Est-ce que je vais survivre par le fait de ne pas avoir ce manque? Et donc, c'est pour ça qu'on se sent si inconfortable face quand on se compare. Et j'ai donné 3 outils pour faire face à ça, pour pas que ça soit un blocage, parce que ça impacte notre manière de nous exprimer en anglais, notre confiance. Mais le premier impact, c'est juste traiter cette comparaison comme information et se dire qu'est-ce que ça indique, qu'est-ce que ça veut dire, sans jugement. Ensuite, c'est de transformer cette comparaison en inspiration. Parfois, ça arrive naturellement, on se dit si cette personne peut le faire, je peux le faire. Mais parfois pas. Parfois, on est juste mal à l'aise, on se sent mal, parfois même misérable, quand on voit quelqu'un qui parle mieux anglais que nous, ou qui a fait quelque chose mieux que nous. Et donc là, on retourne au point 1. Qu'est-ce que ça indique? Et comment je peux transformer ça en motivation? Et parce que peut-être que, donc qu'est-ce que ça indique? Peut-être que ça indique que c'est quelque chose qui a de l'importance pour nous. Donc si, par exemple, vous êtes mal à l'aise face à quelqu'un qui parle anglais, mieux que vous, ça veut sûrement dire que ça a de l'importance pour bien s'exprimer en anglais. Alors que pour d'autres personnes, peut-être ça leur est égal de commettre des erreurs, de ne pas être totalement bon dans sa manière de communiquer, de diriger en anglais, etc. Ça peut arriver. Par exemple, pour moi, l'anglais, ça a toujours été très important. Et j'étais plutôt dans la case, pour moi, c'est important. Mais je parle d'autres langues, par exemple l'espagnol, même le portugais. C'est pas si grave pour moi si je commets des erreurs. Donc, quand j'entends quelqu'un qui parle mieux espagnol que moi, il y en a plein, ça me fait ni chaud ni froid. Et peut-être ça indique aussi que c'est le temps de trouver des solutions, de faire quelque chose. Ensuite, très important, le troisième point et le dernier, c'est de rassurer son cerveau. Donc, comme j'ai dit, pour le cerveau, c'est comme une menace, la comparaison. Et quand il remarque qu'il y a un écart entre nous et la personne avec qui on se compare. Et donc, ça s'enclenche, il y a un mécanisme physique, et il se dit, est-ce que je suis en sécurité? Est-ce que ça va? Donc, il faut le rassurer. Pourquoi? Pour gagner en confiance. Et comment on fait? C'est très simple. On le rassure en reconnaissant ses compétences. Donc là, en l'occurrence, avec l'anglais, se dire, OK, qu'est-ce que je fais déjà de bien? Qu'est-ce que j'ai déjà accompli? en anglais et le reconnaître. Et j'aime bien ce que Shed Meng Tan, l'auteur de Joy on Demand, dit, de prendre cette habitude de changer de colonne, la colonne neutre, de mettre de changer les éléments de la colonne neutre à notre colonne win, ou victoire. Et vraiment reconnaître certains acquis comme de vraies victoires, le fait de pouvoir comprendre l'anglais, lire en anglais, se débrouiller, avoir une conversation. Peut-être vous n'êtes pas là où vous voulez exactement, mais vous êtes quand même meilleur qu'il y a X temps. Et ça rassure le cerveau. Et tous ces shifts permettent de traiter l'information d'une manière à ce que ça nous propulse et, au lieu de nous bloquer. Et ce qui est, je trouve, incroyable, c'est que j'aime bien partager less is more, faire moins mais mieux. Parfois, on pense qu'on a besoin de plus de vocabulaire pour faire face au jugement, plus de plus. Mais parfois, on a juste besoin d'identifier ce qui vraiment nous freine et de traiter ça. Par exemple, si ça, c'est quelque chose qui vous freine et que vous apprenez à le traiter, comme je viens de l'indiquer, vous allez vous sentir beaucoup plus en confiance. Et ça aura des conséquences immédiates sur vos capacités à vous exprimer. Vous serez beaucoup plus calme. Vous gagnerez en fluidité, en fluency, et vous serez plus crédible. Vous pourrez plus générer de la confiance et créer du lien. Et vous terminerez par speaking English like a leader. Donc voilà, si vous avez besoin d'aide, vous avez des questions, n'hésitez pas à me contacter. Et merci encore d'avoir regardé jusqu'ici. Si vous êtes toujours là, well done. And I'll see you next week for another episode of Speak English Like a Leader.